From massive CGI tanks to entire blue screen studios, the behind-the-scenes footage of the Fast and Furious franchises holds many surprises, even for longtime fans. For starters, the actors aren't always near actual roads or vehicles. Yep, you may remember seeing Dominic jump from one car to the other a dozen times in the movies. But the fact of the matter is that Vin wasn't actually doing anything nearly as cool. In fact, thanks to some behind-the-scenes footage, the actor can be seen sitting in a gray-colored prop vehicle. He's surrounded by green screens, which, let's be real, is par for the course when it comes to Hollywood films nowadays. But it still needs to be mentioned that there wasn't a real car anywhere to be seen. The entire sequence in the movie was done digitally, with the vehicle part of it just being a stationary CG car. It's the VFX artists who do their magic and add life to this scene, transforming that toy car Vin was sitting in into the epic muscle car that fans might remember from the movie. And the best part, Polygon stated that this entire thing was done without any major issues or noticeable glitches. Now that's real skill. I can't even begin to imagine how tough of a job it is to transform a stationary CG car into a full-fledged moving vehicle while still managing to make it feel realistic. But hey, I suppose that's why VFX artists are essentially magicians. And this isn't even the only time an actor was seen pretending to be in a moving car, because Owen Shaw essentially did the same thing for his scene. You'd be surprised how little these actors actually make their way to real roads, despite that basically being the main focus of all the movies. To be fair, no one really watches these movies to see intense realism. Fans just want to see expensive cars get flipped over, blown up, and decimated beyond belief. But still, the actual number of real versus fake stunts in this movie may surprise you. According to MPC, as many as 90% of the vehicle action that you saw over the course of the franchise didn't actually end up happening in real life. It was all thanks to CGI. I guess blowing up that many cars would probably put a strain on the budget. And by strain, I mean it'd likely just end up collapsing the world's economy. As a fan though, it definitely stings a bit to hear this. It's one of those things that you already know in your heart, like it was actually your parents giving you the money, not the tooth fairy, but putting it into words somehow just makes it hurt a little. That said, there are a few cars they actually destroy. So you know that remaining 10% of vehicle action I told you about? Yeah, well, good news for people who want to see actual cars get blown up. Those cars actually do meet their maker while filming, but there's a catch. In a lot of cases, the production uses something called hero cars in place of real vehicles. These are essentially replica or stunt cars that have been designed to look exactly like the ones they're replicating. You can spot tiny errors on them if you look really closely, but essentially, it's a cheaper version of the vehicle that just happens to look the same. Take Jesse's Jetta, for instance. It was just a stock non-turbo Jetta that just happened to have the same body kit, wheels, but they tossed on fake rotors to get it to match. It's a lot less expensive to blow up these cars instead of the actual ones. And so, usually when you see vehicles getting destroyed, they are most likely to be hero cars. So while they may not exactly be what they appear, I suppose at least it's better than just being entirely CGI, right? But that's not the only technique used to make these films, because behind the scenes, they also use something known as film tricks. Now, just what is that, you may ask? Well, let me just give you an example. Remember that scene from the films when Dominic was hanging off of a tall building? Now, if the Fast and Furious films casted Tom Cruise, he'd actually be hanging on to dear life for the scene. But good old Vinny does things his own way, and so he was actually being supported by some wires that helped him to maintain balance. While Vin was actually mid-air, there wasn't a tall building anywhere, but rather just a large green room. Compared to how epic of a scene this was in the movie, seeing the behind-the-scenes footage definitely makes it feel a lot less epic in comparison. You might think it's asking too much from actors to perform such stunts by themselves, and you're probably right, but it's hard to overlook the work and effort that some actors have actually put into such stunts in the past. Like Jackie Chan, he did most of his stunts on his own, even if it involved him hanging off of buildings. Still, I suppose the real art of the Fast and Furious franchise is how it's able to incorporate these stunts and make them appear so much more amazing on screen. The franchise has millions of fans worldwide, making it one of the best car movies over the past 2 decades. Of course, for great results, you need massive production, and the Fast franchise is known for having one of the biggest, like the scenes of the film that were supposedly in Iceland. Yeah, well, they were done entirely in a studio in Atlanta. They were shot in what's probably the biggest blue screen that had been used for the franchise up until that point. It's really surprising how they're able to take a large room and make it seem like an icy tundra. The studio had fake snow and large blue walls around the corners, and I'm guessing the CGI artists put in the work needed from there. It's no surprise the films have been a success with a crew this dedicated. Speaking of the crew, they've had their fair share of behind-the-scenes drama too. While they may appear to be a family on screen, behind the scenes, it feels like the cast is anything but. Especially Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel. Their feud has managed to make its way from behind production, and the two have often aired their dirty laundry out for the public. But more recently, it seems that Vin tried to let bygones be bygones. In a post from last November, he urged Dwayne to join Fast 10. The actor added that the world awaits the finale of the franchise, and that regardless of any issues they may have, Vin's kids still call Johnson Uncle Dwayne. They even send each other well wishes every holiday. The post managed to get an intense amount of traction, and of course, that meant Dwayne had to reply. Later, on December 30th, he did just that during an interview with CNN. The Rock added that he was surprised by what Diesel wrote, and while he supports the franchise and his former castmates, he wasn't going to join Fast. The Rock stated that Vin's public post is just an example of how he manipulates people. Dwayne wasn't a fan of how he brought up his kids in the post. The Rock was looking forward to ending the Fast saga properly, but he added that public dialogue muddied the waters. Sheesh. Well, at least I've finally found a family more dysfunctional than my own. Anyway, what are your thoughts on all the behind-the-scenes information about the Fast and Furious franchise? See you in the next one.
10, 4, 3, 2, 1, action! Ready and action!